Pleased now to be joined by Tyler McGuire, one of the best welterweights in one championship. You've got a big one coming up against Agilan Thani. Obvious question, how good does it feel to be back? It's been such a long time, not just for you, but there's been big layoffs for a lot of athletes, totally out of their control. How does that feel, having to be forced to sit out and nothing you've been able to do about it up to now, and to finally get back in the mixer and get back competing?
Yeah, it's pretty frustrating. Going into that last fight, I knew there was going to be a little bit of a layoff afterwards, but didn't anticipate the world shutting down with the pandemic for a full year. So this is like my fourth time, just behind the scenes, getting geared up for a potential fight, and then finally I'm here. I didn't really believe it until I actually got on the airplane, and even then, every time I talked to somebody at some sort of checkpoint, like I was just like, oh, here it is. This is the other shoe's going to drop, but we're here. So.
I feel like Agilan Thani is a name that's been mentioned a lot. I mean, I've spoken to him many times over the years, and I think you were a guy who he felt that he wanted to build up to. I think he speaks about you with a lot of respect, and I think being at the level where he could face you, I think, was almost a goal of his. And now you guys have finally matched up together. Is that the feeling you get, that this one's been in the pipeline for a few years now, and that one is finally coming to fruition?
I do. Back when there was the Grand Prix, if you will, between me and Sapo, and then him and Sebastian, I knew that the winner or loser eventually, because Agilan is always in one of the top 5, 6 in the conversation. Obviously, he's one of the top names in the entire company. So yeah, I knew it was going to happen. Actually, when they gave me the name, though, my heart kind of sunk a little bit, because I consider him a friend. You know what I mean? For 15 minutes, we're going to be trying to take half of each other's paycheck. So there's that. For 15 minutes, we'll have a bit of a disagreement. But yeah, I mean, the first time I met him, he actually gave me the shirt off of his back, because I said I liked his shirt. It's one of the cool one championship shirts. So yeah, we've kept in touch. As soon as I got the contract, I actually messaged him. And we talked about just put on a good show for the fans, because that's what matters. So.
That's very cool. It's very cool. It's interesting because, I mean, your record is so impressive with just that one loss to Zeb, who ended up becoming the champion after that. No longer, of course. Do you feel the need in a way to remind people just how good you are? Because as a fighter, the best thing about this sport is if you lose, you can avenge it pretty quickly. You just get back on it, right? You've been made to wait a long time. So now, do you feel that hunger to just remind everyone your level and just how good you can be?
I do. I learned a lot from that last fight. I think the biggest lesson for me was energy management. I'd fought one way for, at that point, the amateur fights to 18 fights, and it was all, my answer to everything was horsepower. So going into my fights a little bit more tactical, and understanding energy management. So this is a 3-round fight, so I'm not as worried about energy management, because I feel like one of my strengths is cardio and mental toughness. But yeah, I want to remind people that I know I took one on the chin, no pun intended there, that last one, but I'm back, and I want to get this win, and then and I do think I match up well with the champ. So and then that's what everybody's gunning for. So.
How close of an eye have you been keeping on the division? Because that was an absolute cracker between James Nakashima and Abasov. That was a sweet fight. What did you make of it?
I was really impressed with Nakashima. I think that he was really well coached. Going into that, he understood what Avasov brought to the table. But then we were reminded real quickly. And I did an interview a couple months back. Telling people that he's a shark in the water. You know what I mean? Like, you think you're good or whatever, and then he just explodes. And I think we saw that. So I think that it was a good reminder of why he's on top. But yeah, that was a really good fight, and I thought Nakashima was up until he took that knee to the head. But that's the fight game. You're watching in front of millions of people, putting it on the line, and it's with your shield or on it. So but props to them both. That was a great fight.
How are you feeling about the division now? It's something that's come up a few times. Where are the welterweight rankings? Do you feel a bit left out? Why are there no welterweight rankings? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I did notice that the welterweight rankings were were just non-existent. But I don't know. I don't really pay much attention to that. I just want to, look at my next opponent, and then, do my job essentially. Because I know the title fight will come. I know I'm in the conversation. I know with this win, I've talked to people that make the important decisions. I know with a win that I'm back in that conversation. And it's not like I got blown out my last fight. Like that fight was back and forth, and I just got caught. So in the last 25 seconds. So it's not like I was just blown out of the water. So yeah, I think that because there's so much talent up there, it's hard to rack and stack us. But that's why one win gets you back into the title conversation. So. And fortunately for me, Avasov has knocked down a couple in a row, so that the herd is thinning on who's up next. So that's why, again, this win puts me in that conversation.
Well, it's interesting because you talk about that ambition to get to where you want to be, to fight for the belt, but the rankings give us that context. It allows us to make those matches and see who's where and see who deserves to be where. So, as much as you respect whatever decisions are being made, surely you're having a quiet word saying what's up with the top 5 for welterweight, because it's a division that I think now has the depth, right? Maybe before it didn't. And now, you've got legends like Yushin Akami in there. Nakashima's proved himself. You got the guy who's now 10-0 from Dagestan, who's looking very, very sharp indeed. And the champ yourself, Agilan.
Yeah, he just won, the 13th? I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, yeah. So he looked really impressive too. So.
Is it inevitable, do you think, that they're going to bring in the rankings? Because, I mean, you got to agree that it provides the context for who gets that shot, right?
I agree. And I think that one would do itself a favor for the fans, just to get the discussions going, the discussion boards. But we also got to remember that MMA is very much a what have you done for me lately? So you can see across the world in any MMA that, if you come out and you put on a dominant performance, then you're the new hotness, and you're going to be the next in discussions. That's my job, is to, rankings, whatever, but go out and put on a dominant performance and look for the finish the entire time. And then that will put me springboarding rankings, regardless. I think rankings make it more, so the fans can relate and have those discussions. But in the end, I mean, MMA is who had the best performance last, really. So especially when everybody's so close.
So the performance is very important to you against Agilan, as well as the win. In terms of styles, I mean, he's good at wrestling. He's got decent stand up as well. So how do you see it going in terms of how it's going to play out?
I'm a pressure fighter going forward. And he's not. I mean, as we saw with Sebastian, even though he came up short on that one, he's not afraid to stand and bang with anybody. I do think that he will stay to his roots. He'll look for the takedown, but then again, in my opinion, that's just more of like a welcome to my office type thing. Because I'm very confident on the ground, as you saw with Sapo. So as far as but at the same time, when I think about fighters, like, I understand I have to go in there with a obviously not really a killer, like a killer mentality, because I have to finish this guy. Like, he is not going away. He will. If you look at when he fought the champ, but right before he got his title shot, I think Avasov took him down like 6 times in a row or something like that. And he just kept getting up. So I know he ended up getting the finish in the first round, but like I'm saying, like, the heart is there. So I'm gonna have to really put it on him in order to get the finish that I want, to put myself in that position.
A lot is made in not just MMA. I mean, all combat sports about undefeated records, right? And must be an incredible momentum being undefeated. But they say other things. You learn the most when you lose. And is there an element of, I don't know, the pressure being off? Now you don't have to always worry about that. How do you feel about that now?
The O is nice, but I like the pressure. I never, I like going in. You look at Sapo, you know what I mean? Like, I came in and just 65-10 behemoth that had just had 30. He actually K'd my teammate in the 12 seconds way back when he fought him. But I love that. I always tell people, there's gym heroes, you know what I mean? But then there's people when the lights are on. Like, that's when really, you can kick everybody's butt in the gym. It doesn't matter if you can't put a performance on when the lights are on. So I don't really pay much attention to that. I will say that I did learn a lot though from that loss. I still haven't watched the fight. Still haven't. I know what I did wrong, so I don't need to watch it to remind me. I will say that when having that first loss though, you lose that bit. You lose that bit of invincibility, but because of that, you're more dedicated to your craft, because you realize you do have holes in your game, that you're not invincible. So I think once you get over the initial I'm no longer invincible, it does make you better, but some people can't recover from that. Some people, they lose that invincibility and they're done. You know what I mean? That just depends on where you're at mentally. So
A big win for you here, it might put you on the road to the title shot. And at the same time, as the former champion, Zeb, you guys might meet again as a competitor. How much does it mean to you to one day get a chance to get that one back, or is it just move on from that now?
Oh, I've asked for that fight already. Yeah, no, I know I won if that was a 3-round fight, I know I won that fight. But again, energy management, I faded a little bit in the fourth, just because I put out so much in the first three. I was able to hang on in the fifth, but there's things I would have done to, because you just in a 5-round fight, you can't go 100. I mean, you're obviously in a fight, so you are, but there's different things you can do to manage your energy. And those are things I would implement to be able to finish stronger, because when I faded a little bit at the end, that's just because I had put everything into the round. So, no, I've asked for that fight back, and it just out of respect, as you said, as a competitor. And I imagine that if it were the right timing, Sebastian would meet that bill. So, because he's a competitor as well. I know he's talked about going down to doing Muay Thai or doing whatever. So, because he's so talented, he's deadly. And obviously you see his takedown defense is incredible now. So he learned a lot from that Ben Askren fight that I had to pay the price for. So,
yeah, it's an interesting one, mate. Looking forward to having you back in the mixer. Are you keen to make up for lost time now? Are you going to be putting your hand up? Because I feel like all of you guys in your prime have been kind of robbed of like a year of your best. And do you want to be very active now that there's an opportunity? It's not easy with all the testing and restrictions, but it seems like the door's open now.
Yeah, I want to be as active as one and COVID will let me. I do. It is a little bit harder for me because of the lead time I need. Being in the military, there's just things I have to do for like theater clearance and entry. Country clearance on top of all this extra COVID stuff. So, yeah, I need. So that's like the biggest thing. Is it was almost more exhausting just getting all the paperwork and everything in line than the actual like training itself for the fight. Like now I'm here and I'm happy. Like we do the fun part. But yeah, as long as I'll be as active as COVID and one will allow. So I want that title.
How much love does this sport get, and one and yourself get from your colleagues in the military? I mean, it kind of almost is the match made in heaven with the athletes that you get, the incredible competitive spirit that you get in the military. So do you feel a lot of love for MMA and for one?
Oh, absolutely. The United States Air Force actually sponsors me and gives me like free leave, if you will, to come over here. No, they love it, but it really depends. It's because of how, I have to carry myself in a certain way too. If I was just, a dork saying the wrong, stupid things and this and that, obviously the military wouldn't get behind me. But no, they love it. And it's a good outreach program, because, being an American, on the world stage, and, people need to see a lot of things about Americans on the news and whatever. But they can realize that, we're nice and, we're just like you, sometimes the brashness and the American stereotypes is what people see. And, I want to change that a little bit, that we are humble. We do care for others, and I'm just here to be a good ambassador for the United States and the military. So